Hey, if you haven't been keeping track of Daniels and you are a fan of comedy, it's probably the best time to put them on your radar. Who is Daniels, you may ask? But the right question is, who are Daniels? Daniels are Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan, a directing duo responsible for a handful of short films and music videos in the past 7 years or so. They've been on my radar for about 2 years. The first material I saw by them was a short film titled Interesting Ball. I refuse to tell you anything more about this piece other than it's on Vimeo and that you should watch it immediately. Links below in the description. Hopefully you're aware of a little film called Swiss Army Man by now. This is important because it's the first feature-length film by Daniels, and I am in love with it. 2016 has been a drip of a year for comedy so far, but I was too excited when this film was announced for the summer. I wanted to keep as open of a mind and heart as possible because the abundance of sequels, remakes, and reboots in the past couple years has made a drought of original films. This isn't to deny the quality of the good handful, but it's refreshing to have Swiss Army Man in my film consciousness. A bit weird to include the word refreshing and Swiss Army Man in a sentence, considering this film will live in infamy as the farting corpse film. But a questionable premise should absolutely be on an avid filmgoer and maker's compass. Swiss Army Man stars Paul Dano as Hank, a young man marooned on an island about to end his misery. In a stroke of deus ex machina, a flatulent corpse, played by Daniel Radcliffe, washes ashore and signals a long dormant hope within Hank to escape. Hank finds resonant feelings of abandonment within his deceased compatriot, when suddenly the corpse begins to develop limited speech and mobility. Hank discovers the corpse's name is Manny, and they begin a mutualistic relationship to survive and find home. I can't stress enough how legitimately funny this film is. It isn't crude, random, or excessive. It isn't loud, intrusive, or annoying. It is innocent, intimate, and memorable. Each joke inspires a moment to build individual character, but also characters together. And this wouldn't be possible without the written strength of both Hank and Manny. Seeing two characters grow and learn through the relationship rather than in spite of it feels fulfilling and real. In other recent comedies, characters are built on irony and sarcasm. They become too self-aware and cynical and are built on the expense of others. Sometimes this works in instances where the only important text is centered around a single self-interested character. However, if the character is completely self-loathing, if there's too many loose strands and subtext, or if the writing is just straight up terrible, not only will the characters lose dimension, but the entire film will fall flat as well, and zero of the jokes will fire as perfectly as they could. Swiss Army Man abandons the long drawn-out exposition by placing the situation in front and beneath its duo. There's all the subtext, all the vital signs, and all the heart and laughter of the entire film. The film does feature other characters, but they are all indirectly constructed by Hank and Manny. Even if the minor characters have so little screen time, we felt their presence before we even saw them. Visually, the film snow globes the two main characters for a while through coastal beaches and forests that are somewhat reminiscent of a certain vampire love franchise. Cinematography is low, grubby, and natural, giving the feel of a Peter Pan and the Lost Boys or summer camp vibe that ties well with the theme of survival. It is an immense pleasure to watch the jokes unfold in Hank and Manny's company despite their situation. It's good to see that Daniels didn't opt for flair over flavor. As for the presentation of Hank and Manny, it is a slapstick goldmine. I'm going to praise that as a dead guy, Daniel Radcliffe gives one of my most favorite performances because of the limitations he is thrust into. I would dare even say that the majority of his and Paul Dano's movements together replicate the longest dance sequence in film ever. Their relationship is embodied in their forced proximity. It is consistently too close for comfort, mirroring an older sibling hanging out with a younger one. This makes every misunderstanding and confession hilarious and miserable, because Manny can't articulate his body language. It's a manipulation from either gravity or Hank, creating situations with absurd physics and choreography. And on that note, this film is an example of how CGI can improve a film's comedy instead of cheapen it.
Right!
Do airbags, it doesn't...
Follow police.
Back riding.
Let's go! Oh my God! No, God!
I have to talk about the score of Swiss Army Man, because I have a special bias in this category since I love Andy Hull and all of his projects. The music was written and performed by Andy Hull and Robert McDowell. They are key members of the bands Manchester Orchestra and Bad Books, whose music is playing in the background of this review. In complete severe honesty, this film would be far less interesting without the integrative composition Hull and McDowell were able to introduce through the film's characters. What I mean by integrative is that the music takes place both inside and outside the film's reality. In a Consequence of Sound interview, Hull states that they were trying to produce subjectivity with the entire score inside of Hank's head. This produces a pseudo-musical element that marries into the film incredibly well, and cues beautifully cut music videos that allow the comedy to breathe. It's incredible and something you need to hear and see for yourself. Also, thank you, John Williams. I do have to say that the film takes some missteps in its third act by being a bit too melodramatic. The film is at its best when Hank and Manny are at the focus. Anything else feels confining. I'm going to conclude this review by contextualizing a quote by Roger Ebert on the film Weekend at Bernie's from 1989. "Why don't dead characters work? The temptation is to say that we find them in bad taste, that the idea is too gruesome to be funny. But comedy is often founded on bad taste and the offensive. I think the problem is more obvious. They don't work because they require the other characters to be so stupid." If Roger Ebert's body were to see this film, I wonder what he would say. Jokes aside, this film works because none of the characters are written stupid. They are all naive and confused. Naive about their strengths and confused about their insecurities. Love, laughter, and embarrassment are all true and universal feelings that require support. Each feeling challenges what we are comfortable with in order to include. Being alone stops becoming weird when you aren't. This film has a charming soul and avoids the overly quirky, overly moody baggage of its indie ilk. Swiss Army Man is added on my list of evergreen films. Films I can watch over and over and over again without getting bored. Please go see this film. It is a valuable comedy for the spirit, eyes, and ears. Well, we got through the review and without a single fart joke. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'd love to read your interpretations in the comments below. Consider liking and subscribing for more reviews to come, and if you really need a score, thanks fart watching.